Okay, folks, how you doing today? Hope you're doing well. Well, I just wanted to show something here, and it concerns our favorite best friend, corporate best friend, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Mostly demonization, exclusion, and isolation is what I call it. Many have given their own, ascribed their own words to those acronyms, some that are expletives. So I won't go there, but I think they're hilarious. Anyway, so Colin Rugg on X kind of posted this, and it's that just in. We're seeing the downfall of DEI, finally, because people have woken up and we have seen that this is just this draconian, authoritarian, communist trash heap that has infiltrated some cognitively dissonant powers that be and elites as a way of imposing what they deem as some moral authority over you. And the fact is it's just one world government. It's just simply ideologies, and ideologies that pit me against you based on any perceived difference in any way, down to the smallest thing. And it can't continue. These literally are, in the day of climate change and worrying about the greenhouse effect and using the word sustainable ad nauseum, this actually does apply. These evil concepts like DEI, which is based on neo-Marxism, is these are unsustainable. They are unsustainable over the long haul. And thank heavens for some freedom of speech. We got to hold on to that tight. So if you're gonna have one weapon in life, it's your freedom of speech. Use that. Use that. And I think freedom of speech also, it allows people to be exposed to. So we should allow it. Even hate speech, I don't believe that term anyway. Hateful speech, yes, it exists. But there's no such thing. It's just speech. And you know what? You let the world see who these people are. You don't censor people. You allow people to be seen for who they are. And then the world will make their judgments and change will happen that way. It does. So anyway, just in, the Philadelphia Police Department has fired their first ever DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion officer. Good. DEI officer Leslie Morant was fired just hours before new commissioner Kevin Bethel was set to take office. Morant's base salary, this is typical for DEI, was a whopping $170,568. She was told her services were no longer needed. Well, yeah, because it's going away, it's dying. And you know what? The cusp of what that was? The Harvard president. It finally took that much for her to come out there and say, oh, do you believe that people saying genocide the Jews would be ascribed under your policy of harassment? And she's like, it depends on the context. Okay. At that point, DEI was on its last legs and it just fell apart. And it will continue to snowball. This will become an avalanche of firings. Google, YouTube, they're all getting rid of their DEI people. There's 150 DEI people actually in the administration at, I think it's the University of Michigan. I mean, that's ridiculous. And to me, that comes across that they've just hired a police force of Gestapo. And they dress in regular office wear and sneakers and come to work, and they bring down the iron fist. Basically, the velvet glove with an iron fist inside. That's why administrators don't threaten us. We don't see them as a threat because they dress nice, they're mild, they're meek, they're just regular middle managers. No, these people are the tyrants. So Marin's base salary is a whopping $170,568. The move also comes as Philadelphia Mayor Cheryl Parker signed an executive order declaring a public safety emergency. I wonder why. Because the politicians got their money from George Soros. George Soros, as I have said before, his whole purpose is to deconstruct and cause absolute chaos. Because if they go far enough with this, one, they can take the power away from countries like the United States, middle class countries that have historically been strong because of middle class. They can take that power away and they can basically stunt the growth of a great Western country like this. I'm not saying people in government right now, not all of them, but some at top levels right now are the levels of corruption are pretty deep right now, and so I don't support that. But I do represent the base found principles of the Constitution, as you probably guessed. I want the world. Cheryl Parker signed an executive order declaring a public safety emergency. I want the world to know that I am fully committed to ending this sense of lawlessness and bringing order back to our city and a sense of lawfulness, she said as she vowed to hire 300 more police officers and to restore stop and frisk. Now, as I was saying about George Soros, people are finally pushing back because they're realizing all these people became rich, billionaires, a lot of hedge fund managers, mysteriously, people who are already involved in something that doesn't build anything and it doesn't create anything. It simply short stock and it destroys companies for the sake of them getting rich. So it's already, to me, a seedy endeavor. And to me, I feel like hedge funds are unethical, period. But that's just me. And so why would these people not be into doing unethical things? That's their business. So people like Soros and Bill Ackman, people like that. Bill Ackman, he's actually he's actually changing his mind because he's Jewish. And all of a sudden he's like, oh, wait. Now, George Soros is Jewish too, but he's completely immoral. He has no affinity towards Jews or anything. And that's not an anti-Semitic comment. That has to do with he's totally amoral. He just happens to be Jewish. Okay? So we're getting tired of this, but these activist investors, a lot of them are hedge fund managers, and they're activists too. So they have a ton of money, more than they know what to do with. So they're going to start to fund the influence of chaos in the world because they can. And so they're funding politicians who are repealing like what's considered misdemeanors and felonies. They're also repealing, they're not enforcing the law. Laws can be useful, but they don't do anything if nobody is willing to enforce them. If a prosecutor or a DA in a city is not willing to enforce them, this is the stuff right here that happens that you can see right here going on at Lululemon in Philadelphia. These, I forget what they're called, smash and grab type robberies where the gang of guys comes up and smashes and grabs, and there's like 30 of them and they all run out. And it's the usual suspects. There you go. So anyway, not going to watch that too much. You can kind of get a gist. It's chaos. There's a bunch of people monkeying around and ripping off yoga sweatpants. So anyway, somebody said, nice, unexpected. What kicked this off? I wonder how likely this can become a trend. They finally realized a DEI officer doesn't actually reduce crimes. No, they do not. They encourage it, as most leftist policies are. Well, this is a glimmer of hope. People finally realize it's a useless position, yes. Now that we were in a terrible economy, when things were going great, they hired all these DEI people, all these fluff positions that are utterly, absolutely meaningless and useless. And all they do is divide. I don't care how much you put frosting on that thing. DEI is meant to divide, period. That's the end goal. And so people finally realize it's a useless position. DEI ends the second I get sworn into office. Valentina Gomez. So let's go ahead and watch this here. This is Patrick Bet David from Valuetainment. He's like a financial millionaire dude, and he started Valuetainment, which now makes political commentary too, as well as financial. But it's interesting. So somebody said, to abolish DEI, we need to start talking about BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, and what they are doing. They essentially have a monopoly on DEI. They have a monopoly on everything. So let's go ahead and listen to what Patrick Bet David says. I think he's on Joe Rogan. So let's listen to that.
Looked at, everything, Soros, State Street, Vanguard, BlackRock. How much have you looked at what they're doing and what their ties are?
I've looked at it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They're pretty much running everything.
Yeah.
S&P 500, the number that 88% of the companies on S&P 500, 88% of them, the largest shareholder of those companies is either State Street, BlackRock, or Vanguard. 88% of them. Okay. And then you see their influence in defense contracts. Okay. So we went through a deal. I'm like, let me see if these guys, this ESG, Larry Fink, Vanguard, State Street, if they have any influence on military contract, defense contracts. If you Google the largest shareholder for Raytheon, 3 out of the 4 top shareholders of Raytheon, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. It could be top 3 with Raytheon, but I think it's 3 out of 4. If you go look up General Dynamics, if you go look up Boeing, if you go look up, Northrop Grumman, okay? And then you work backwards and you say, okay, how much money is that in what these guys are doing? You'll find the amount of money we spent in our military, $744 billion on how much we're making from defense, but you'll see some numbers saying last year is 13% of our GDP, which is around $850 billion. That's more than the next 10 combined. We gave more money to Ukraine than Russia spent on their military last year. And when you look at these contracts, then you're like, okay, Fink is there, these guys are there. Okay, let's go look at Hollywood. Same thing you see there. Let's go look at pharmaceutical. Let's go look at this. And you're like, wait a minute. These guys essentially have a monopoly. Well, how big is BlackRock? $10 trillion. How big is $10 trillion? Only 2 countries have a bigger GDP than what BlackRock has, assets under management. US and China. That's how big BlackRock is. So then they went and they started getting all these other guys to sign on and say, hey, we want you to participate with the same thing as well with ESG. And they ended up having, I think, that 31 signers. I think end of 2022, they got 60 something signers for a total of $70 trillion of assets under management that they're controlling. So now they're controlling other places. And just recently, if you saw the rebuilding of Ukraine, did you see this contract? Rebuilding of Ukraine, $400 billion contract. BlackRock and Chase is helping rebuild Ukraine. And then, okay, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but what the hell is going on here? They have that much control to get everybody to do what they want them to do? Yes. So Dylan Mulvaney, who cares? Why? Bud Light. How does that tie up? You got the DEI, the HRC, the human rights, and all this stuff. And then you go even deeper, which is even the crazier part with, the education, schools. Like, the biggest union we have in America, I think it's National Education something. NEA is the largest union we have. 3 million teachers are part of that union. And you look at that and you go deeper in that with open society and who's funding it, who's the money behind these organizations. Comes back, Soros, Soros, Soros. How do you feel about the kind of power they have right now to fight against them? Because this isn't like a billionaire can come out and say, I'm going to go up against these guys. They don't have a little bit of money. A billionaire to these guys is nothing. They got the kind of control that can make companies fire boards, they can replace CEOs, they can replace leaders if they don't like. They have their hands so much into it where many times when people say the people of power, I'm kind of like, who are the people of power? Are you convinced these guys are really running the world, or what do you think about what some of these bigger companies are doing, like State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock?
Okay, so that was just a snippet, and some of you may be aware of all of that stuff. If you're new to this, it's the nature of the beast. Some of that's a little hard to wrap your head around, perhaps. But these companies have established DEI. They have pushed DEI. Let me turn that off. So there's another acronym that State Street and BlackRock, basically companies that owned 88% of everything in the world right now. These guys, they are huge proponents. The CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, that pear-shaped turd, he is very much a proponent of what's called ESG. This is a corporate morality standard, okay? That's how grotesque this is. And it basically is environment, social justice, and governance. That they're going to basically, they blackmailed the companies that they own. So if they owned a 60% share in some company, and that company, say, for example, does not push transgenderism, these are the types of things, or progressivism. Okay, so transgenderism is one. If they don't push that, if they don't put out commercials, like this is what happened to Bud Light. They all of a sudden had this transgender, who's not really transgender, but he does dress up in dresses. This transgender individual, supposedly, Dylan Mulvaney, and they're the ones who push that type of stuff. And even though the marketing manager was kind of the head of that idea, it was pushed from the top by environment, social justice, and governance, which is like all companies that we have investments in have to be environmentally friendly. They have to practice forms of social justice, Black Lives Matter, transgenderism, LGBTQ, um, uh, things like that. And anything that's traditional, like families, things like that, self-sustainment, um, all those things, this is outlawed. That's why it's not really a moral code, because they want to pretend it is. They want to virtue signal that it is, but it's not, because it's actually taking 95% of the population of the earth and saying, you're all wrong, you're all bad, and we're going to use this as a cudgel to take things away from you and to punish. It's a form of blackmail. That's why Elon Musk, when he was being interviewed by the New York Times a couple of weeks ago, he told Disney to fuck off, which rightly so, because Disney was trying, and some advertisers were pulling off away from X, saying, okay, if you if you allow free speech and don't censor the people that we don't like, we're going to pull all our advertisements. And he said, fuck you, because he said, you think you're going to blackmail me with advertising? And Elon Musk even said, he says, man, I'll go down with this ship. It's worth it, because free speech is worth it. Is X perfect? No, it isn't. Is it absolutely 100% free speech? No. But relative to the past 10 years, it's a hell of a lot better than what we've had. And many people didn't have a voice and were censored on here. Conservative voices, libertarian voices, anybody who disagreed with the mainstream narrative. So, so anyway, back to this. That's a long story short for DEI, but that's where we're at. And so it says here, wow, about this DEI person who was fired from the city of Philadelphia, they're not buying it anymore. And so somebody said, wow, $170,000 a year to be a woke spokesperson for the police department. Meanwhile, hardworking Americans are dying in coal mines, barely able to afford rent. If that doesn't scream inequality, I don't know what does. Yeah, one of the things of DEI is equity. Now, equity did have an innocent and actually decent meaning at one time, but immediately will get hijacked and abused by the powers that be. Equity means equity of opportunity, that everybody has the same opportunities. The outcome, that's up to you. So if you bitch and moan because you didn't work hard at something, and you're like, how come I didn't get a raise? How come I didn't do as well? How come something I tried to sell didn't sell? Well, that's up to you. Did you use all your resources that were available? So, but they've used it as being like equity of outcome. So that this is what we see with the Harvard president. She plagiarized like up to 50 papers. She did not. They're trying to get rid of this system meritocracy and say, if you're a cheater and a liar and you haven't earned this, we're going to give it to you anyway. If you went to school and you took an English course in high school and you completely failed, we'll go ahead and give you an A anyway. And the other students who don't look like you, and we don't like them, so we'll go ahead and give them B's, even though they did work harder. And like Oregon's doing right now. Oregon's doing this. Oregon is doing this. We are going to, based on color, if you are black, we are going to make tests easier. We are not going to make a very difficult curriculum for you. We are going to make you stupid. Now, as what many liberals fail to see, especially progressives, what they fail to see is this is racism. You're basically saying, you're communicating, you're too stupid, and we want to look good. But it's all superficial. So what we're going to do is we're going to take away your future opportunities to get somewhere in life. We're going to make you stupid, and we're going to keep you stupid. What is that called? The soft bigotry of low expectations. Anyway, and you can see this all ties in to DEI. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. This type of blackmail over companies and universities, it doesn't work. So somebody said about the new mayor, I like her already. That's what it will take to get the department back to fighting crime and hiring based on qualifications and not race, color, or one of the two genders. Good for her. I wish her success. DEI must die. The point was to end discrimination, not to replace it with different discrimination. Elon Musk follows up saying, diversity, equity, and inclusion are propaganda words for racism, sexism, and other isms. Yes, this is just morally wrong as this is just as morally wrong as any other racism and sexism. Changing the target class doesn't make it right. DEI is a woke joke. Yep, exactly. So with that, I'm going to end it here, but I thought I would just point that out that yes, the the Philadelphia Police Department has gotten rid of their DEI officer, which is good. This is like getting rid of the KGB officer in the old Soviet Union who used to go on ships and submarines and spy on the soldiers to make sure they were in line with the current political narrative and they weren't saying anything that could be construed as criticism against the current political leadership. We can't do this. We're not going to do this crap. And it's a bunch of garbage and rubbish, and it's a dumpster fire, as we can see. And the top of that dumpster fire is Dr. Claudine Gay at Harvard with her hair on fire. Well, what little hair she has on top. And so she'll probably end up doing some little Netflix special with Jada Smith and talk about how unfair it is and everybody's racist and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, the fact is you just cheated and lied your way. You muscled your way in there. They gave that to you, that leadership position, based on your immutable characteristics, just your skin color and your intersectionality. You were a lesbian, you were black, all these things, and it ends up that you're a massive plagiarizer and your credentials are trash now. I mean, they're really a garbage heap. So anyway, thanks for watching, folks, and I will talk to you soon. See you later. Bye.